The teaching is this is happening for me to bring me into my new levels of my own power, to get clear on what I really want so I can create my reality the way I want it to be. And when you make that shift, that one simple shift, you don't have problems anymore. You don't have terrible things that happen. You don't have issues.
Hello, beloved family, Youest community. This is Julie. I am so grateful to be here with you. And I just want to give a quick little bit of an overview. This conversation is so powerful. Be sure to stay till the end. I don't want to give it away, but you will get an incredible experience. I am recording this right after my conversation with Sara Landon. Sara is the best-selling author of You Are a Channel, which we're going to talk all about, how you are a channel and how to channel, as well as The Wisdom of the Council and the book, let's see if I got this right, The Dreamer, The Journey, Eternity, and God. She co-wrote that with Mike Dooley. Sara is just a gem. And if you are wanting to be inspired and really get the powerful divine creator that you are and get real tools and tips and ways to connect to your higher guidance, to be a channel yourself, which we all have the ability to do, sit where you are, stay where you are, take us on a walk, wherever you're going, take us with you, and you are going to be so glad that you tuned in. I'm also going to encourage you to come back again. Make sure that you listen anytime that you need a reminder of who you are. And especially for all of my beloved listeners and those who are watching on YouTube, please leave your insights, your questions, your comments. Sara agreed to come back. We will be doing a live together here on YouTube where you can ask questions. So feel free to leave your comments. And I always respond. I love to hear what's going on for you. And of course, if you are not already receiving my newsletters and the emails about this podcast, make sure you go over to juliereisler.com and where you can sign up, get some free, really lovely intention cards, and I have other goodies, and make sure that you become, an insider, a friend, first to know, because we're going to be sharing more in the year to come. All right, my dear, sit tight. I hope you love this conversation. I am still on a high from it, and I know that it's going to glow your mind. Lots of love and enjoy. Sara, I am so excited for this conversation. I know that it's going to bless everybody. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for being here. It's such an honor, and thrilled to share your wisdom and light.
Thank you, Julie. I appreciate it. And I'm excited to be here with you and your community. So we're going to have some fun today.
We are going to have fun. And I'm just going to say to anyone listening, make sure, hopefully you're going to want to stay for the entire conversation. But Sara has agreed at the end, we'll be doing a really beautiful message from the council. I have no idea what it's going to be, but for the year, for 2025, this year that we're stepping into. So be sure to hang out and stay with us. I would love to just kind of begin for those, I'm assuming many do know who you are, but if they don't, your story, I know you have more than one book. Your book, the Wisdom of the Council, really, really spoke to my heart. And for those who don't know you, maybe you could share a little bit about, how did you get into channeling in this work? Because I don't want to give it away, but I don't think you were always doing this. So
Definitely not. And had anyone sent out this, invitation like, hey, would you like to come and channel the council and share that with the world? It probably would have been the last thing on earth I would have ever agreed to do had my path not unfolded the way it did. But I grew up in a small town, a very loving Christian family. That's all I really knew at a young age, and really all that my family had been exposed to. And so I grew up learning the teachings of Jesus, but even at a very young age, I had a lot of questions that no one could answer, and a lot of things about it didn't make sense to me. And I would say that even from a young age, I was always asking these bigger questions. Who are we? Why are we here? What's possible? And I did always have this very spiritual side and connection to animals and nature. And so My parents got divorced when I was about 7 years old, and we ended up moving closer to my mother's side of the family. And at the time, my aunt, and this is in the late 70s, early 80s, my aunt was really into reincarnation, metaphysics, past lives. She was studying with channels, one in particular. And when she first shared it with me or told me about it, something inside of me just knew it was absolute truth. I deeply resonated with it. Channeling back then, I think, was a little bit different than it is now. The only understanding I had ever had prior to my own experience of channeling was that a entity comes into someone's body, that person leaves the body, the entity speaks through them, and then they come back and have no idea what was ever said. So examples of that, like Jay-Z Knight or who channeled Ramtha, the Seth Speaks materials were channeled that way. Edgar Casey channeled that way. A Course in Miracles was channeled that way. And so that was really all I was familiar with. And so I very much resonated with the truth and the wisdom that I heard at a very young age. However, at one point when I was about 10, decided to tell my amazing, loving Christian family all about this channeling and past life stuff. And I wasn't met with the same enthusiasm that I had about it. And I was essentially told, if you believe that, you're going to hell. And I just couldn't believe that a loving God would do something like that, or someone would even tell me that. So I kind of shut down all of it at that point. I was still very much seeking answers to my questions. I didn't really know what I believed about all of that stuff. And I got into personal development at that point. So I remember as a teenager seeing Tony Robbins on an infomercial, and I was like, oh my God, I have to have those tapes. If you're not familiar with what a tape is, or a cassette tape, back in the day, we had these things called cassette tapes, and you would order, instead of an audiobook, you would order cassette tapes. So I had all these cassette tapes from Tony Robbins and different personal development people. And then I really got into the corporate world and college, and then the corporate world and being an entrepreneur and being in business and the art and science of success and achievement. And I was pretty satisfied on that path. I did still have a lot of questions that no one could answer. I was studying different religions and all sorts of things, but I still never quite came to this deep resonance with anything. And in 2001, my brother made his transition in a very sudden car accident, which was really my first experience with someone very close to me passing away. My family and I flew to Alaska in November, which is where he was living at the time. And we were going to his viewing, which was the first time I'd ever seen a dead body. And we walked into this very cold, heavy, dense, emotional room. And, I could hear everyone in my family crying, and my brother's body was on the left side. I was extremely emotional as well. And I walked up, I touched his body. It was cold, which I certainly wasn't expecting. And it was just all, just a lot, very emotional. So I went and sat down in these chairs that were kind of to the right side of where his body was, where the rest of my family was sitting. And after sitting there for a few minutes in this cold, emotional room, hearing all of the crying and the sadness and all of that, I experienced what I can only describe as liquid love that started from the top of my head, and it just went through my entire body. And I heard my brother say over my right shoulder, "I'm still here. I'm just not in there." And I knew his reference was to his body on the left side of the room. And I said back in my head, "Where are you?" And he said, "I'm just as here as I ever was. I just left the density of the body, and I'm at a vibrational frequency that you can't interpret with your physical senses." And well, I knew exactly what he meant. Those were not words that I was familiar with at that time. And then I asked, "What about heaven and hell and all of that?" And he said, "It's not like that. There's only love here." And I also knew that that was true. And so then he receded, and I was back in the room very aware that no one else had heard this conversation but me. However, from that moment, I was completely and totally in peace. And over the years that followed, I was in my corporate career and having these spontaneous experiences with my brother from time to time that I couldn't evoke, but would happen very spontaneously. And it was my intense desire to connect to him at any time that I could. So fast forward, I was now in the height of my corporate career. I was traveling a ton. I wasn't getting a whole lot of sleep. It was a bit of a stressful time in my life. And I started waking up in the middle of the night, and I would just have this energy, this intense energy, loving but intense. And I would just have to write. And so I would take out a pen and some paper and I would just start writing, and I would write, and then the energy would stop and I would go back to sleep. And again, it was very spontaneous. I know the process now to be automatic writing, and anyone can do it at any time. But at that time, I didn't know what it was. And so I would wake up the next morning and I would read what I had written. And it was the most incredible wisdom. It was the answers to all the questions that I had. It was so beyond anything I had ever heard before. And it was just absolute truth in my being. And it was coming through me, but it wasn't coming from my own mind, even though I deeply resonated with it. So that continued on again, very spontaneously, height of my corporate career. And then we sold our company, a series of events. It was time for me to leave the corporate world, but I really still loved personal development, and I really wanted to still be involved in business and leadership and human potential and all of that. And so I looked at acquiring a personal development company with some partners. And I moved out of state. I ended up leaving the relationship I was in to pursue this amazing opportunity that just seemed like the perfect next step. And a few months into it, and lots of money and time later, the whole deal ended up falling apart. And I found myself living in a town where I really knew no one, and felt like I had screwed up my whole life. And I knew I had some purpose, but I didn't know what that purpose was or even how to go about living that purpose. And so I was in a yoga class one day, and I'd been by this woman for a few days in a row, and finally, we got to talking, and she said, well, everybody in my business does yoga. And I said, what business is that? And she said, I'm a QHHT practitioner, which was Dolores Cannon's quantum healing hypnosis technique. And I must have had a glazed look in my eye, because she says, I help people get in touch with their higher selves. And I said, well, I need to talk to you. So I scheduled a session with her with the intention of getting clarity about my purpose and talking to my higher self for some answers. And so I never could have imagined that as we were doing these QHHT sessions, that yes, I was getting answers from my higher self. But at some point, at the time, the most intense love I had ever felt and the most intense energy I had ever felt came into my body. I knew who I was, I knew where I was, but all of a sudden I was translating very quickly these intense streams of consciousness, and my voice changed a bit, the cadence of my voice changed, the answers were plural, like we, or from our perspective, right? And this went on for about 45 minutes, and then that energy receded. And I realized that, oh my gosh, these are those incredible, profound answers and wisdom that were coming through in automatic writing. And now they were coming through me in this verbal format where the practitioner could ask questions, and the streams of consciousness would come, and I would just answer. And after we were done, I listened back to the recordings, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is the most amazing thing I've ever heard. But no one is ever going to hear me channeling whatever this is, right? And nobody will ever see me do this, because it was just bizarre. However, I couldn't deny the love that I felt in these transmissions. I couldn't deny the energy, and I couldn't deny the truth and the wisdom and the information that was coming through. And so this went on for almost a year. We would get together and she would ask questions. And over time, we started referring to them as the council because they were definitely a collective. And that's really what it, it felt like to both of us. And then they did explain that they were a council of ascended master beings that were here to support us in living our highest potential and to offer us a grander perspective of the human experience and what's really going on here. And so the next step led to the next step that led to the next step. I started doing private sessions for people and they would ask questions to the council. And then I started doing group sessions and they would ask questions to the council, but always under this very safe guise that nobody's ever going to publicly know, especially my family or anything like that, right? And then I came to this point where in order to go to the next level, I really needed to put this out in the world. And it took overcoming my absolute greatest fear of seeming weird or woo-woo or crazy, even though I knew I wasn't. And it was the farthest thing from my experience was this is the most natural, normal, grounded, loving presence I'd ever experienced. I also didn't want to lose my relationship with my Christian family, specifically, my dad and a few members of my family that I'm extremely close to, even though their only perspective on God is through Jesus. And so I eventually put the council in the world, and my whole entire life changed in the most amazing way. I have now 3 best-selling books: The Wisdom of the Council, a collaboration with Mike Dooley asking questions of the council, which is called The Dream, the Journey, Eternity, and God. And then my most recent book, which is You Are a Channel, which is teaching people how they or helping people remember how they can open up and receive guidance and messages from higher realms, angels, guides, loved ones on the other side as well. And so if anybody would have told me when I was in the corporate world that you're going to leave the corporate world and start channeling your group of ascended master beings, I would have been like, no way. You absolutely have the wrong person. I'm not doing that. But they said to me very early on, if you will just live this wisdom, you will live a life beyond your wildest dreams. And that has really been my experience. Their wisdom has completely changed my life, up-leveled my life, brought me into the most incredible experience of what I can only describe as heaven on earth. And they have done so for all who are ready and opening and allowing that to be their experience as well. So,
woo! Wow, Sarah. I'm going back to those corporate days. And by the way, I used to listen to tapes also, Tony Robbins and Louise Hay. I grew up with
yes,
them
yeah.
on the tapes. A lot of our family and community listening are probably going to know of tapes. And if they don't, they will go look it up if they don't. I love it's like talking to your younger self. Like there's no part of you that would have ever thought you would be doing this. And that to me, when we say yes, when we say, okay, I kind of give in, I surrender, whatever this is, it feels, you said you were just covered in this liquid, this beautiful, loving light. And, to me, it's so powerful, right? To hear where you were, where you are. And I hear a lot of courage and faith in what you're saying, especially having family that this was not their orientation. In the book, I think I remember, maybe I'm making this up, but hearing or reading that your father, like very loving and understanding today, very supportive of you and what you're doing.
Yeah, I had some help. I'll put it that way. There was a moment in time when I was really ready to bring the council to the world in a big way, and I was one foot in and then one foot out all the time because I'm like, okay, I really want to do this, and I want to publish books, and I want to do courses, and I want to do all this stuff, and I want to speak all over the world, and then I was like, oh yeah, but I don't want anybody to ever hear me channel. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll go back to the corporate world and be safe and secure, and I'll just go back and I'll be fine, and I just won't tell anybody about this. And so it's very much like once you're out there, you're out there. Like the first
Yeah.
time you go into an interview, then you're channeling, it's out there, right? And or you post any of your own stuff. So I was very uh, one side was like, yes, I'm in, and the other side was like, no, I'm not. And so council said, you're not really giving us permission to fully come through, and we're not really giving us permission to take you where you want to go.
Mm.
And I realized that I wasn't, and it was because my biggest fear was that I would lose my relationship with my dad. And my dad and I had always been so close and had this really special relationship. And having my aunt having been into those things for so many years, I I heard the things people said about her, not understanding and judging her and thinking it was weird and crazy and woo woo and so I came to this moment where I saw the end of my life having never brought the council's wisdom to the world and never really living my truth and never really putting it out there, and I just couldn't not do it. And no matter what that meant, I had to do this. I had to be all in. I had to totally give permission. And I had this moment where I was like, if nobody else understands, I accept and approve of myself, and I have to do this. And so I made that shift inside of myself. And not long after that, my dad calls one day. Now I've put stuff out on social media and Facebook and YouTube, and he's like, Sarah, I don't understand. Why does your voice sound so strange? Why do you have to call it the council? Why can't you just speak in your normal voice? He's like, I don't get what you're doing. And I just took a breath because it was okay that he didn't understand. It really, truly was completely okay with me. It was okay. And I said, Dad, you didn't really know what I did when I did IT infrastructure consulting services either. It's okay that you don't understand, and if you're not into it, don't listen to it. But I think I did add a little point in there. If you think I could talk in a voice like that and not say pause for 90 minutes, like that would be the greatest performance ever, but nobody can do that. I said I couldn't make it up if I was trying. It's just too perfect. And so, he just said, "Okay, fine." I said, if you don't understand, that's okay. You don't listen to it if you don't resonate with it. That's fine. You didn't go to my presentations when I was in the technology world. You don't have to go to these, right? So it just kind of dissolved itself, and then sometime later, my grandmother's very, very Christian, and Jesus is the only way. So my grandmother thinks I'm a motivational speaker. This is my dad's mother. And I'm there visiting my family, and my dad and I are in the car on the way to the nursing home to visit my grandmother. And somehow my work comes up, and I said, Dad, I love what I do, and I'm changing people's lives. And I said, I just know that it's my calling. I just know that this is my calling. And I used those words, and that wasn't something I would normally reference. This is my calling. Usually I would say my purpose. I know this is my purpose, would have been probably more natural to me. So he said, okay, well, good. I'm glad you're happy, whatever it was. So we get to my grandmother's, and we're sitting there visiting with my grandmother, and how are you, and how are things, and how's your work? And I said, oh, it's really great, and just loving what I do. And she said, well, I'm so happy. She said, Jesus came to me and told me that this is your calling. And I look at my dad, and my dad looks at me, and he's like, well, Sarah, I guess it's your calling. And it was just one of those moments that you couldn't have made up. It's just like, wow. Okay. And and here's my grandma basically saying I channeled Jesus. Jesus told me this is your calling. I did not point that out, but it's all the same, right? It's all the same. And so, yeah, it was a pretty cool moment. But there were just these divinely orchestrated moments in time where there's just a shift that occurred. And, I first and foremost do this for me because this is what I love and what I enjoy. And I love the council so much. And I love their wisdom. And I love having conversations like this. And I love witnessing the shifts that I make and that my students make and just seeing people live the most incredible lives. And if one person ever tells you, oh my gosh, you changed my life, that's everything. But to experience that, I would say at this point, almost on a daily basis, as an email or a YouTube message or a person I meet or someone in one of my classes says, this has changed my life or saved my life or transformed my life. It just makes all of it worth everything that you go through to get to this particular point.
So, so beautiful. You're going to get a lot of love and comments. I can tell you right now, we have a
Thank you.
huge, beautiful community, especially on YouTube. And I love just the synchronicity of your using that word calling and then your grandmother, which of course you saw the irony, right? You are channeling the masters, Jesus being a master, and she's saying she's channeling and you're both coming up with the same thing. I mean, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I noticed it in other sort of funny ways, especially with my family. Like somebody will say, oh, wow, you're channeling Grandpa Bob, my grandpa's name is Sid, but I hear people say that. It just this almost like just rolls off their tongue thing. Oh, you must be channeling your inner this or that. And it's kind of a common term at this point, right?
Yeah.
And for me, for a very long time, I didn't consider it channeling because the only experience I had ever had of channeling to that point was someone who is a complete out of body trance channel that doesn't know who they are or where they are or what's going on. And this other entity comes in their body and they have no idea. And that wasn't my experience at all. I was very present. I knew exactly who I was and where I was, but I was experiencing everything from a much, much, much higher level of consciousness. I would get to, by the time I took some deep breaths to bring the counsel in, I had no questions. I was in pure bliss. I was one with them. They were me and I was them. And it was just like there was no up there, out there. It was just, oh, this is all of who I really am and all that is really here. And so it took me some time to personally get comfortable with the word channeling and then to actually get the guidance that, okay, now you need to start teaching people how to channel for themselves. It was a journey for sure. And it's looking back, it seems like it happened overnight, but there really were a lot of very difficult moments and very lonely times and times that I was in such judgment about myself of, oh my gosh, you screwed up your whole life. Like, what are you doing? And I would put something out on YouTube and then I would mark it private and then I would put it out again and then I would turn it off again because I really didn't, want anyone to judge me, but no one was judging me. It was me who was judging me. And so when I shifted that in myself and I went, this is who I am and this is pure love and it's all truth and I've got to put this out there and love myself and know that I'm worthy of being who I am. And that really shifted everything.
What you just said, chills, first of all. This is really important for everyone listening. Two things that you said I want to highlight because it could get overlooked. One, you're worthy of being who you really are. And I think for anyone listening, this is I thank you so much for sharing so openly and vulnerably. I think this is what so many of us fear. I would imagine, like attracts like. Anyone listening has a calling, has light, has love to share. And there can be fear, right? The fear of kind of coming out of the spiritual closet. It's funny, when I was doing a solo episode one time, Sarah, I was talking about being woo. And then I heard come through me, the wisdom of oneness. It was redefined. And I loved that. Like really what you're doing, right? This wisdom of oneness. But the courage it took to like press, going from the unlisted to the listed on YouTube, like that's a thing. And also what you said is you are doing this first and foremost for yourself, which what I have seen, and we'll go way more into this because I have so many questions for you about channeling, and for those I know are listening, like, okay, how do I do this? But that is enough. Like people, and then of course changing people's lives, but to love what you're doing for yourself, I don't know. That's taken me years to get that we're worthy of that. That's actually, that's where the answer is, what you love and where you feel that connection. So I just really acknowledge and honor you and your bravery and your courage and saying yes and surrendering. Like this in itself, there's so many more gems coming up, but like that in itself is so inspirational. And I think for anyone listening, for those that are like, I'm scared, I don't know, can I do this? What is my family going to say? What are the people, who used to be in my life, or, maybe you've gone through a life change. I know I'm remarried, I'm divorced, I've shifted a lot since I was married before, and it looks different, and it takes a lot of courage. And so for you to be fully out there, it's a testament to what can happen. You said you're living your wildest dreams and then some. So it's kind of like the divine spirit, the council, like God has got a better plan than our small self could ever even vision.
Yeah, the day my fiance and I met, I was divorced as well,
Mm.
and very happily single. And they say the love of your life isn't just going to walk up and knock on your door. So, figure it out. Try to find him or attract him. Right? But he literally walked up and knocked on my door. That's another story. But the very first time we met, he said, "If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plan." And I think that that's so true. Now, that being said, to me, that divine plan is your soul's plan for your life. And while it seemed like at one point my whole life was falling apart, I look back at it now and I'm like, whoa, everything was falling into place in the most incredible way. It wasn't happening to me, it was happening for me. And my brother's death was kind of the beginning of this time of awakening for me. My brother's death, I was diagnosed with a very severe kind of cancer in my late 20s. I went through a divorce. I ended up moving and living in the home I had built and loved, and moved to a completely different state and started over. I then left my safe and very lucrative corporate career to follow this deeper purpose. And I went through some really challenging times when the stock market was down and the real estate market was down. I was living on my savings and no idea exactly where all this was going. And so I've been through, at one point in my life, pretty much about everything you can go through. And it was all happening for me to awaken me to who I really am. And so all of that feels like a completely other life now, because those sorts of things don't happen. Those things don't happen because, first off, my perspective is that everything that is happening for me. This is one of the council's teachings. Everything is happening for you, but there's a really important next part of that, to bring you into your power so you can get clear on who you really are, what you really want, and create your life the way you want it to be. And I had come across similar teachings to that. And I think that's part of why the information is what it is, because I had heard something similar. Everything's always happening for you. I'm like, okay, I believe you, but why? And then they go, oh, well, we're so glad you asked. Everything is always happening for you to bring you into new levels of your power, to get clear on who you really are and what you really want. And, I'll give you I'm a huge animal lover. And I adopted this dog. She was about 6 years old, and she was just like the coolest dog. And we'd been on this journey together. And I had then adopted another dog, but she was just like we were soulmate dog in person. And one day she went to run out, and a friend of mine was here, and she went to run out and greet her, and she stopped. She looked like she was about ready to completely fall down, and then she kind of fell down a little bit, and then she got back up, and I was like, whoa, that was strange. Well, that started a progression, and within 1 week she went into massive heart failure. She had a thing wrong with her heart that could not be fixed. And so she had episode after episode over the course of that week, and every single one got worse and worse and worse to where she'd collapse, she'd completely go blank, and then it would last for longer periods of time. And I was having that moment of, why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? And I went, okay, come into your power. Like, what is this? And what I really wanted, I wanted her to make her transition on her own. I did not want to have to put her to sleep. I did not want her to suffer. And a very dear friend of mine had told me just prior to that realization that I had about her own dog and how she'd always, had to put her dogs to sleep. And this one dog she had, she just told him, go on your own. You can do this. You can let go and you can go. And so I went, okay, this is what I want. I want this to be the most divinely beautiful transition where she's in her power and she's choosing. And sure enough, and I won't go into it, but she showed me that intention that she did. She transitioned on her own with my very dear friend there, my fiance, who normally would not have even been able to come to my house or to come home within 10 or 15 minutes. I knew she was about to make her transition. I called him. He happened to be, by coincidence, like a mile away. And he walked in the door. She looked up at him. She looked up at me. And she took her last breath and she made her transition. And it really taught me something, because then when my other dog went to transition, I told him the same thing. I want you to go on your own. You have the power to do this. And it really shifted something for me, that we can support our animals in their transitions. Now, it's not this true for everybody, and there absolutely are circumstances and conditions where helping your animal transition is the kindest, most loving thing to do, and I'm absolutely, completely in support of that. But my point in all of this is, when something comes up now, instead of going, oh, this is awful, this is terrible, this is heartbreaking, why am I having to go through this? I go, okay, the teaching is, this is happening for me to bring me into my new levels of my own power, to get clear on what I really want, so I can create my reality the way I want it to be. And when you make that shift, that one simple shift, you don't have problems anymore. You don't have terrible things that happen. You don't have issues. I look back at my brother's transition, and I know not everybody in my family would share this perspective, but I look back at that as it changed my life in the most incredible way. I look back at having cancer in my late 20s, and it changed everything for me about my relationship with my body, my divorce, the loneliest, most difficult, challenging times. I know now what we call the dark night of the soul, and again, this is wisdom from the council. The dark night of the soul will last as long as you continue to deny love for yourself and deem yourself unworthy. And so that's exactly what was going on. My dark night of my soul, I had left my marriage, I had left my home, I had gone through pretty much my entire savings. I had left my corporate career. I had no idea what I was doing. I was living in this town where I knew no one, and I thought I had destroyed my whole life. And I was in such judgment of myself. And so the dark night of the soul lasts as long as you continue to stop denying love for yourself. And and that was around the time where I started channeling the council, and their whole thing was about, you've got to love yourself. You being the greatest version of you requires you to know your own worth, and being a powerful creator and a powerful manifester and creating the life that you want and having the abundance and the well-being and the love that you want. You've got to know you're worthy of it, and you can't be denying love for yourself and be in alignment to your own worthiness, which is the powerful place of where you create your reality. And so that was the big shift for me, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate. I have so many students that say, okay, I left the corporate career because I want to follow this path, and then they get to this place where they're running out of their savings, they're running out of their money, and they think they've screwed up, and they go into fear. And stop and take a breath. And one of the most powerful affirmations from the council is, I know who I am. I know who I am. I know who I am. And you don't have to follow it with any words, but when I do that process and say those words, I know I'm abundant. I know I have a purpose here. I know that there's a divine plan for my life. I know that the next step's going to come. I know that it's all going to make sense at some point. And then I'm right there in that, ready to be inspired, ready to be creative. Okay, let's go do what brings you joy. And I think what I say to people a lot in that situation is, well, one of my other favorite affirmations is, galore, galore, I have everything I need and more. Galore, galore, I have everything I need and more. And the council brought that through in a time when I was about as far from that truth in my own mind as I could be. I had rent to pay, bills to pay. I had real estate properties that I was paying the mortgage on, and I couldn't sell them because the real estate market was so down that I couldn't even give them away. Nobody would take them. And and uh, I literally had $337, and I had all these bills, and I'm making these YouTube videos about personal development, and I have no idea where all this is going and where this is leading to, and when you're in that place, you'll attract people to point that out to you. And I remember this
Well said.
this a friend of a friend. I didn't know her real well, but I did know her pretty well, and we were having this lunch about something, and she's like, "Well, why don't you just tell people you're broke?" And I'm like, "What?" And she said, "Yeah, well, just tell them you're broke. You don't have any money to pay these bills." And I'm like, "But I'm not. Like I'm not. I can't even say those words because I'm not." But why did she even reflect that to me? Why did she even say those words to me? Because I was complaining about paying bills, because I was in fear, because I was talking about it, because I was putting that out there. And I had a student one time that was asking a question to the council, and she said, I know I have this purpose on earth. I've known my whole life I'm supposed to be wealthy. She's just like, I've always known I was going to be wealthy. And she says, but gosh, my kids are so worried about me. They're just terrified for me. They're so scared. And all of my friends and family, they're just so worried about what am I doing? And I'm going to lose my house. And I'm going to, and the council said, well, that's a really good way to know how the message that the universe is getting. Because if everybody in your life is reflecting back this you're broke thing, that gives you a very clear indication of the message you're sending to the universe. Why are they so afraid? Well, they know that I have no money, and they know I might lose my house, and they know how stressed I am, right? It was because of what she was putting out there. And when she made that shift and they gave her the affirmation, I'm a wise, wealthy woman. I'm a wise, wealthy woman. I'm a wise, wealthy woman. And they would say, do you know you're wise? And she would say, yes, I know. And they would say, do you know you're supposed to be wealthy? And that's who you really are? Yes. And so she affirmed this. It was really funny because I did the practice too. And not too long after that, I was with some friends, and this one person says, you're such a wise, wealthy woman. And I was like, oh, I get it, right? We think, okay, where's your thoughts? It's not in if you opened up your brain, your thought is not in your head. It's in a field of consciousness. And so what you're putting out is what's getting reflected back to you. But it's also a very, very, very good indication of the message that the universe is getting from you as well. And so that was a growing moment for me. That was many years ago, well over a decade ago. But I reflect back on it now, and I go, that was a really big moment for me. It was a really big moment for me. And so galore, galore, I have everything I need and more. When the council first shared that affirmation, I remember going, nah, no, I don't. And then I'd keep affirming it, and I'd be like, okay, well, maybe I do for today, but I don't have what I need for the next year or 5 years or 10 years. And so you go through this process of your mind until you actually come to this place of galore, galore. I have everything I need and more. And as I aligned to that and I really felt it, I realized I had always had everything I needed and more every step along the way. I always had everything I needed. I always did. And when you can come into the truth of that, then you begin to shift it. Galore, galore. I have everything I need and more. I have the money I need, the time I need, the connections I need, the resources I need, the opportunities I need. All of it is there. And then that continues to grow. And I have everything I want and more. I want everything I have and more. And you begin to shift it. But, if you're in that place, you got to remember that you are the powerful creator of your reality. And, our technology now has a wonderful way of doing this. I literally said on a phone call to someone, I mentioned this product that I have never searched for on Google ever. I just mentioned the product on the phone to someone, and I said the name of it out loud. And the next time I went to social media, I had like 3 ads for this particular product. So that is a really good example of how the universe works as well, and how efficient and expeditious the universe is. And by the universe, I really mean you, the consciousness, the energy, the power, the light that you are, the power of your soul, infinite intelligence, all that is always here responding to you. We are the powerful creators of our reality. And so when you make that shift, everything in your life begins to shift.
I just want to share this really quickly. You've probably noticed that one of the most fast growing industries out there is the life coaching industry. I want to say something to you. Life coaching at its core, when you have the knowledge, the core competencies, the training, is sacred, powerful healing work. I got a certification and master's degree in coaching over 15 years ago, and it has changed my life, and it has changed hundreds of clients that I've worked with and the hundreds of students that I have taught. If you are feeling a soul nudge to do more to help others to unlock their potential, their highest potential, i.e. being your Youest you, and learn how to do that for yourself, I highly encourage you to consider my Intuitive Life Designer Coach Academy. It is a premier certification program. We're starting up again in January. Please go to juliereisler.com/certification. You can upload the program details. Let me know if you have questions. Everything is listed there. I would love to have you. If you're leaning in, if it's a soul yes, if you feel like you really want to do more to help people to stand into their highest calling, then I encourage you to look into the Intuitive Life Designer Coach program. You also can weave this in your work, in your industry now. I've had many lawyers and doctors and teachers, psychologists, other coaches that have done other programs, but felt they were missing the grounding, the integrity of the coaching program. You will have a practicum, mentor coaches, and we meet twice a week for 4 months with me as your coach and guide and mentor. And it would just be an honor to help you and to work with you on your journey to be your Youest you as an intuitive life designer coach. Again, go to juliereisler.com/certification. And again, if it's a soul yes, I'd be honored to guide you in this next 12th cohort. It's so beautiful and powerful to hear, Sara. You're speaking of it, your examples, and something that I'm pulling that is really, I think, important is this is not a mental activity. This is not a left brain. And I know I'm a recovering overachiever, left brain, like do it all day long. We used to be in corporate. I know this we have a lot of us, and it's like it doesn't live there. It doesn't live there. And when I was listening to, I loved your book. I got to listen to you. It was so fun because I felt like we were doing this. And as you were speaking and you were saying, I love I know who I am, or the galore, galore. I have
everything I need and more.
I have everything I need and more. I need my glasses to read that. But, whatever that is, what I got when you were saying it is to find the feeling and the knowingness, which is not thinking. It's not in your brain. You said that. It's not in your brain. It's a deep knowing. And I just got this image. It's like when you're speaking with the lessons from the council, it's like we're anchoring to the truth, like literally an anchor to the truth, because so many of us are anchored to fear. And for many listening, I know for me, loving your work, I'm big into A Course in Miracles as well. It really goes hand in hand, and it is about shifting perspective, which is what you're talking about. And I have a little reminder on my phone that says, expect miracles, like expect these perception shifts. And what you're saying, it's such a powerful example of what is possible when we remember the powerful creators we are at a deep knowing. Because even listening to you, you at first didn't feel it, and then you started to, like, I could feel it, like you embodied it, you knew it. I think that's important. So many of us, we can say affirmations, but it's not a left brain thinking thing. It's just, I mean, tell me what you think, but I don't believe it lives there.
No, in fact, that's why the council says to repeat it multiple times out loud, because the first time you say it, your brain's like, no, I don't. And the second time it's like,
Mm.
no, I really don't. And then maybe the third time it's like, okay, but I don't have everything I need for the next year, right? And then you come to this place where you feel the truth of it in every cell of your body.
Yes.
And it is that. And, I'll give you a couple examples. People ask this question. So you're telling me that I can sit in my living room and visualize abundance and visualize the love of my life knocking on my door and visualize my perfect health. And I can just sit around in my living room visualizing things and I'll get what I want. And the council's like, well, actually, if you could focus to that extent, yes, you are the powerful creator of your reality, but that's not the point. The point is to go into the vision, go into your imagination, go into the realm of potential and possibility, explore the timelines and the possibilities and the different potentials that exist there, and then notice which one gets your attention, which one you're passionate about, which one lights up, which one you go, yeah, I want to have that experience. And then really feel it as if you're living that. How could you even have the vision of it? How could you even see it in your imagination if it wasn't a timeline of possibility that was available to you? So you know that it's here, and if you can see it, it's possible for you, and it's already in your field of consciousness. And so you say yes to that. You feel the passion, you feel the excitement about that. And then here's the very important part. Go do what brings you joy. Go do what you love. Go out and live and love and be all that you are, and love your life and play and have fun, and let the next perfect step come, and let the next perfect step come, and let the next perfect step come. But for example, if you're visualizing being abundant and doing what you love and having the money to do the things you're inspired to do when you're inspired to do it, and to live in a place that you love and really feel that abundance, you can go in your imagination, you can be in that place, you can really feel it. But then when you go about your day, don't start complaining about your lack of money. Don't start saying, oh, I wish I could, but I don't have the money. Oh, I'd never be able to afford that. Oh, I'd never be able to leave my job and do. Don't start denying the reality that you created in the moment that you could see it in your imagination and feel it in your body. And so that really helped me a lot. The other thing that really helped me a lot as a former very type A, very driven, I took pride in working 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. I took pride in never taking a day off when I was sick. I still have the little certification I got in high school for never missing a day of school, having perfect attendance, straight A's and all, there's a lot, you're pushing and forcing a lot of energy when you go about your life that way. So then I'm channeling the council, and they're telling me all of your power is in the now moment. They're telling me to take deep breaths and come into a place of stillness, and that's the access point to acceleration. And I found that really annoying. And then my other least favorite term at the time was allowing, and just allow. I'm like, those things, I would just get so irritated. And I'm like, allow, be in stillness, and be in the now moment. That is about opposite of how I had achieved success and goals and accomplish things. So it didn't work in my belief system without a shift in my perspective to really understand. And the shift in perspective is to understand that there are different dimensions of consciousness. And so the third dimension, which most of us have existed in for decades, is the third dimension where there's fear and lack and limitation. And you have to, in order to create something, you have to push and force an effort because it is a much denser dimension where there's a lot less vibrational frequency and you're summoning a lot less of your own powerful energy. So you have to work hard and you can achieve things in that way. But once you start to wake up and ask the questions, who am I? And you understand you can transform your circumstances and your conditions, and you're not a victim, that you're not the things that have happened to you, that you are not your circumstances, you can change your conditions. Now all of a sudden you are actually summoning through the elevation of your consciousness and being aware of that ability to transform, you're actually summoning more of your own energy. So that's why when someone first might hear about the law of attraction, they might manifest a lot of stuff really fast and really quick because they're going from that third dimension to transformation and they're experiencing the energy of transformation really powerfully. And I know that was true for me to the point where I all of a sudden realized I don't want to manifest anything ever again because I'm unmanifesting at this point all this stuff I manifested from that state, like the relationship and the job I didn't really, and all that stuff. And so the fourth dimension is a place we tend to get addicted to. And it's a wonderful thing. And I'll give you a perfect example, Louise Hay. When I first, I love Louise Hay, Heal Your Life and then Heal Your Body, the book that you could actually heal your body, that there was all these different ailments. And if you could figure out what the emotional disconnect was, you can start healing your body. And so it's meant to be an empowerment tool. But and I've seen this a lot, but I know for me, I started using it as a way to judge myself. Oh, here's what I'm doing wrong. And so now I've got this misalignment in my body because this is what I'm doing wrong. So I need to fix this. I need to fix my body. I need to fix what I think. I need to fix what I do. And now you get stuck in this habit of fixing yourself and healing yourself. And some people get stuck in that for decades, and the council says some people get stuck in that for lifetimes. But the step out of the fourth dimension into heaven on earth, a new earth, pure love, all that's really possible for us, is to go beyond judgment. So to go from the fourth dimension to fully summon the power that you are into your human experience to create your reality the way you want it to be, is to let go of judgment of others, of circumstances and conditions as being wrong or right, but most importantly, judgment of yourself. And so now, instead of if something comes up in your body, my body, I don't judge it. There's nothing wrong. This is happening for me. This is an opportunity to come more into my power, to be the pure love that I am, to have a deeper relationship with my body. And I know there's a gift in it. I know it's an upgrade or it's a shift in how you perceive things. And again, as you said, the shift in your awareness, in your consciousness, in your perspective is what creates magic and miracles and does the seemingly impossible in your life. In fact, that was one of my other questions is I always deeply resonated with the Bible saying, with God, all things are possible. And in my personal development world, that shifted to, with love, all things are possible. And I believed that, but I hadn't really experienced that, and I wanted to understand why. And so when I really understood that it is that shift in perspective to come into the fifth dimension of pure love, that pure love, that state of pure love, is where anything and everything is possible. So when you get to the fifth dimension, force and effort just simply don't work. And it really is about being in your power in the now moment, understanding that you're a force field of consciousness and you're either expanding that and summoning more of your own energy, or you're contracting that and not summoning very much of your own energy, which is why life feels difficult or where you have to push and force an effort. But again, if you open up to that and, oh, my favorite word, allowing, council said, okay, all right, we get it. We get it. You don't like the word. But let me explain. Let us explain. The instant manifestation of allowing is joy. So go do the things that bring you joy, and you will be in a state of allowing. Feel joy in every cell of your body, and you are in a state of allowing. So when you replace the word allowing with joy, what can I do right now to allow, right? Might really frustrate your mind, brain, did mine. Now I go, what can I do right now to be in joy? What brings me joy? And I go do that thing. And the next perfect step comes, the inspired action comes, the creative idea comes, the phone call out of the blue comes, it all shows up in that space. And that really helped me understand some of these concepts and actually be able to, as you said, embody them.
That word, it's lighting up. And I want to say, Sara, thank you for you're sharing this. There's so many levels to take in here and for everyone to really get, because I feel like many of us are taught the opposite, to program yourself to joy, to even asking that question, what would give me joy in this moment? I'm actually with you. I was like, I don't want to hear the word allow. Like, I like, how do you allow? But joy, when we ask that, and I love what you're saying, because the moment you ask it, of course, when you ask the question, what happens, there's a rushing into answering that question, and just asking what brings you joy brings you into that field of joy, which is what I'm hearing, the vibration of where we move into more of the fifth density, the fifth dimension of receiving, and almost I'm imagining like becoming it, which when I was listening to, and we will be doing that soon because I'm so excited. I want to ask you one question before we get into the message that you and the council have. It feels and it seems like the veil has been lifting the last, you could say 2012. I don't know. I've just kind of noticed it the last decade or so. Even the word channel, it's becoming more recognized, understood, less, thank God, less of a stigma. I mean, there's still, I'm thinking some communities I know that'd be like, you're what? This is what? And I know anyone who's tuning in here, there's more people that are feeling like, I want to be able to do that. I think I am doing that. Can you talk for a moment? I know you have a whole book on this, and I'm going to have all the links. I just want everyone to know, because you have so much beautiful wisdom. We'll have like everything in the description. So if there's anyone who's like, I need all of the information on Sara, we'll have it. Don't worry. I've got you. But for those that are asking, curious, maybe with, knowing your work or the Seth material or Abraham Hicks or others, like it feels like there's more coming to the surface, which in my opinion, humble opinion, feels like a blessing. Like it just shows we can do this. This is the next like evolution of humanity, which I'm all for this. Like the more that we're channeling what you're bringing in, the better we're all off, because the wisdom is so high vibrational. Can you talk about what you've noticed with the veil, and what, for anyone listening, like what do they need to know? Maybe the top 5 things or top 3 things to start channeling.
Well, first off, you would not be drawn to channeled information if you yourself were not also a channel. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to verbal channel like I do. I have channeled, I couldn't even probably count 20, 25, 30,000 hours. I have no idea at this point. But in the last decade, I have channeled pretty much every single day. And at one point in my life, I was doing, 5 or 6 channeled sessions for people a day. So I've done this a lot. It's a really natural thing for me. It has developed because I've done it so much. But I also have students that come into my classes or my course or my book, and day one, they're verbally channeling effortlessly at a place that took me years to get to. So I do think that the collective is all receiving the expansion as well. And I love and I celebrate that. But first off, everyone is a channel. Everyone is a channel. The athlete that's in the zone, that fielder that catches the ball and makes the perfect play and saw the ball before the batter ever hit it, was just in the zone. That's channeling. That's channeling source energy. A musician that's in the zone, right? An artist, a writer. I can tell you so many examples of books and movie scripts and things that people tell me about. I know I channeled that, they'll tell me. Yes, you did. And a poem that you write. When you're at lunch with a friend and you're just deep in this conversation and you just say something and they go, "What did you say?" And you're like, "I have no idea where that came from." That's channeling. There's so many different forms, and I go through them in my book, but mediumship, animal communication, automatic writing, verbally channeling, verbal art, channeled art, channeled poetry, channeling books, all these different things. A lot of people experience it as a knowing. And I experience it throughout my day, a lot of times over my right shoulder. I just have this awareness that pops in, or this wisdom that pops in, and that's a form of channeling. So opening your channel does not necessarily mean you're going to be a verbal channel like me, although there's a lot of people that are and are very natural. I can think of several different students that had no idea, but they had always kind of heard these hymns or these songs or these tones, and they would open their mouth and these tones would come out. And it's actually called light language. And I have thousands and thousands of students that do this light language. And it is actually the language, it's the universal language of our soul that goes beyond the limitation of human language. And light language is opening up for many people. Remote healing. I have so many students that are doing remote healing, and it's just absolutely incredible. And none of them learned how to do this. They took the course or they did the book, but they were really remembering. So you came here with these gifts and abilities. Your natural inherent state is to be a channel. We all are a channel of infinite intelligence, a channel of source energy, a channel of light, of divine love. And in some cases, that might express itself as verbal channeling. That might express itself as mediumship. That might express itself as automatic writing. This is an always expanding journey. But if you're drawn to this and if you're hearing this, you are a channel. The first and most important thing is to know that it's a relationship just like any other relationship. So make time for it, open up for it. The very simple process that I give in my book and in my You Are a Channel course: close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths, go from your head into your heart, and ask, what does my soul want me to know? What does my soul want me to know? And then take out a pen and paper and just write. And then read it back to yourself out loud. You're going to feel like you're making it up. You're not. Trust yourself, trust yourself, trust yourself. It's one of the most important things. Make time for it, have a relationship with it, trust yourself, give it permission to come through. Give it permission. If you're sitting there judging yourself, what am I doing? This is so woo-woo. Oh, I can't believe it. If anybody knew, you're not fully giving it permission to come through when you feel that way. And so those are some really simple things that people can do. But I assure you, I have taught at this point over 7,000 students around the world how to channel. I've never had anyone who can't access that. And some of the simplest responses to what does my soul want me to know are the most powerful. And that's the other thing. People think they're making it up, and I keep getting the same thing. We keep getting the same, like if you're like me, I keep getting the same thing because I'm not really embodying the wisdom that they're trying to bring through. And when I did, then they would bring through new messages. And then at some point, as you get more comfortable, you can start asking different questions. You know, right after my dog transitioned in the way that she did, I thought about, I had this picture of her that I loved, and I just brought it to my mind, and I thought about her and just some of our happiest days together. And I said, okay, Kona, what message do you have for me? And then I just started writing. And I thought I was making it up. And I'm like, I'm just telling myself what I want to hear. But then she brought through a message for someone else, that one of my friends. And then I just kept going and I got done and I read it back to myself and I went, oh my goodness. And so I ended up sharing that with that friend and just, we were both in tears and we were both like, oh my gosh, there's no way you could have made that up. I didn't even know what was going, what was going on, but it came through in this message. And so start to tune into that. I 3 days ago from when we're recording this, I was the anniversary of my brother's transition. And, I just said, okay, give me the absolute sign, right, that you're still here. I just want a message from you today. And it wasn't just one, it was all day long. I kept having these moments, the council has been calling it recently, I was experiencing the divine symphony of perfection. The divine symphony of perfection, because as I looked at how many different things had to occur for that miracle to happen in that moment at that time, it's a divine symphony of perfection. And so it's all here for you. But we have gotten so used to relying on our physical senses, what you see, what you hear, what you taste, what you touch, what you smell. And the council says what you think is also a perceiving mechanism. But we get so reliant on those that's what we think reality is. And the other thing people think is that channeling or getting a message from higher realms or a message from your soul is going to be the big booming voice of God that is going to scream at you what you should be doing and what direction you're supposed to go. And in my experience, it just doesn't happen that way. It's a knowing. It's a knowing. It may be some very simple words, but your soul does not need to yell at you because it has eternity. It's an eternal being on a journey through the universe. So if you don't get it today, no problem. If you don't get it tomorrow, it knows you're going to get it at some point. It knows the truth of who you are. It doesn't need to yell at you, which is why being in the moment, being in a state of stillness, the easiest way I would describe stillness is if I am worrying, trying to figure it out, anxious, getting down to every detail, trying to micromanage everything, I am not in a state of stillness. When I am in a state of stillness, I feel one with everything. I know it's all within me. I know it's all here now. I don't have any questions. I don't need anything. I'm just in this place of total stillness. I'm in the awareness of the force field of consciousness that I am. And it's comprised of these particles of infinite creation that are in everything, everywhere, and it's all within me. And when I feel into that, I'm not doing it with any sort of expectation like, okay, now make the phone ring. Okay, now send me that email with that amazing opportunity. Okay, now do that. Oh, now the check comes. I'm not doing it for that. When I really get to that state and I'm in total innocence and joy and just pure love, then the miracle comes in the most amazing way that you could never orchestrate if you tried. So I hope that's helpful.
Oh, amazingly, amazingly. And I think some of the key points, really, what I heard you say is we got to make time for it. Like, or any relationship, any good relationship, we got to make time to be still, time to connect in. And I love what you also said, getting quiet, but also learning to trust yourself and really building that kind of relationship where we get I think it's so easy to get wrapped up in the alarms, the bells, the whistles, literally, social media, all that's going on. And we're missing these opportunities to really, really to quiet ourselves and to ask yourself, what does my soul want me to know? And to write and not edit. The other thing I heard is stop the judgment. Just stop judging yourself, which is so important. And God, we could do a lot more about that, Sarah. Maybe another time we
Yeah.
could do, I feel like, so much more. But I love what you said, that this is, everybody can do this. And especially if you're watching and you're here, it may not come out like what Sara does verbally, but like, I love that you said that. I hadn't thought of it that way, as an athlete who's in the zone and can see ahead of time, or the musician or the artist, or, the parent that runs and grabs their child because they can see before something happens. We're all able to do this. It almost feels like, and I think you did say this, it's part of our birthright. Like, this is how we're designed. We're designed to do this. We just, frankly, I don't know about you, I wasn't taught this in first grade or in seventh grade. I was taught all the standardized test things, but I wasn't. This is what I love about what you're doing and what you're teaching. This is like, hello, we all have this right and this ability. So,
Yeah.
all right,
Yeah.
with that, because you have been doing thousands of hours of channeling, this is so much fun. I keep seeing this image of you, Sara, like the corporate IT. It's so funny. I'm getting these like flashes of like, if you could talk to her then, like she would just be like, what is happening? And now you are just living so aligned. I keep seeing that. I had to say that. I think it's such a great story. It's such a powerful
Thank
story
you.
for all of us. So,
My one funny story, and maybe somebody needs to hear this. I, I was a woman in technology and in an executive role, and there weren't a lot of women, and I was also in the IT infrastructure and consulting and engineering world, and there weren't a lot of women. And so I felt like I had to work harder, put in more hours, be better, be smarter, know more, right? All of that. And so I always kind of prided myself with like almost this perfectionism, right? Of what I was doing. And so later on, when I left the corporate world and I'm, now channeling and I'm talking to my former business partner, who I had never told him anything about any of this. And I said, well, my passion really has always been spirituality and human potential. And I just started talking, and he's like, Sara, I know you've always been that way. And I'm like, what? I said, what are you talking about? He said, no, you were always the one talking about spiritual things. You were always the one talking about how to be our best selves and live our purpose. You were always the one saying anything was possible. And I'm like, I was? I don't remember any of that. So sometimes what I've discovered is it is perfect for your podcast. You don't know how you are. You don't know how you are. I had a student that started channeling angels, and she said, "Oh God, I had this moment where I had to sit down with my mom and my sister and tell them that I was professionally channeling angels now." And they both went, "Oh, that doesn't surprise us at all." And that was the end of the conversation, and they all just kind of, okay, cool. So why do you do that? And what do you? So you don't even know how you are, even though you think you're in the spiritual closet. You've got your spiritual perfectionism mask on, and being a good girl and dotting the I and crossing the T. You do not know how you are. So just be you. Just let it all out, and it's just a huge release. You let go of all this resistance when you just let yourself be who you are.
oh my gosh. I'm like, that is the whole point of this freaking podcast, the Youest You. It's like, just be
Yeah,
that. Exactly.
yeah,
And I love that it's like, we're not hiding. I had a similar thing. I'll just spare the story, but my oldest best friend was like, hello, you've been psychic and you've been doing that like since I've known her since I was 5. She's like, this is not shocking. Like to me, I was like, oh, I've been hiding this, but people know.
yeah,
Like your business partner was like, yeah, you were that. Hello, we knew this. It's so
yeah,
funny. I love that you pointed that out. Yes.
yeah,
And then the joy, I just keep hearing that word and seeing that word, what you said, the joy is connected. So, that like, it's so funny. I'm almost seeing like that rockets you maybe from the third dimension more to the fifth when you step into joy and who you really are. And that's the whole point,
yeah.
well, all right.
Let me say one quick thing before
Oh
we bring the
yeah.
council on that.
Sarah, you can talk as long. I love
The
chatting with
most
you. It's so
common
good.
response I get when people first hear myself or the council say, ask yourself the question, what brings me joy? Most people will reply with, I don't even know what brings me joy.
Mm,
And yet, the answers are almost always the same: nature, animals, the people that I love, candlelight, a warm bath, a sunset, a delicious meal, this beautiful piece of music that I love, roses, waterfalls, feeling the sunshine on my face. Pretty much all of that is free and available to you pretty much in every moment. And what brings people joy is usually pretty similar. And yet they don't consciously, intentionally even allow themselves to feel the joy when they're doing the things that bring them joy. And I was the queen of I'm out in nature on a walk with my dogs, on my phone, thinking about all the things I need to get done, thinking about all the things I shouldn't do, thinking about all the things I should have done, thinking about what I need to do. I'm like, here's the things that bring me joy. And my three things would be my animals, nature, and sunshine. And here I'm in the three things that bring me the most joy, doing them right now. And I'm not even allowing the joy because I'm not in the moment. I'm not in a state of stillness as I'm walking my dogs, right? So I hope that's helpful to someone who needs that reminder. All right, I'm going to bring in the counsel. I just close my eyes and take about 3 deep breaths, and they'll begin. My eyes are closed usually the whole time I'm channeling. It just helps me to really focus. They bring a lot of information and a lot of energy in very, very quickly. The cadence of my voice does change a little bit. If you've never heard of channeling, or you're new to channeling, or you don't know what's going on, you're not even sure if you believe this, don't worry about it. Don't worry about where it's coming from. Just how does it make you feel? How does it make you feel? Take the words that resonate with you, take the information that resonates with you, and focus on that. Don't worry about whether you believe in this or not, or can explain it, right? And then when they're complete, I'll just come back and say goodbye to you, okay? All right. We are so pleased and delighted to have the opportunity to speak with you on this fine and glorious day indeed. While our words to you are important, this is a vibrational experience of remembering the truth of who you really are, why you are here, and all that you intended when you chose this magnificent life experience, because we assure you, your life is meant to be so very good for you. And this is the time when you truly remember the power within you. You are everything you wish to be. You already are. It is all within you. It always will be. And yet you are on an incredible journey of witnessing your own becoming. You are already perfect, whole, and complete. And you are witnessing the journey of your own becoming. You are here for expansion. You are here to express all that you are. And you're here to choose the experiences that you want to have for you. You are the powerful creator of your reality. You are the powerful creator of your reality. What you focus on and the meaning you are giving it is what is creating your reality. Our most important message to you at this time is that this is the time for you to thrive, to know that you are worthy of thriving and prospering and flourishing and living a truly beautiful life. You are here to thrive. And while not all others are choosing abundance and well-being and joy and love and prosperity and harmony and freedom in their own lives, it is more important than ever that you do, that you choose it and experience it for yourself. If you are listening to this, you are pioneers, you are trailblazers, you are way showers of all that is possible, and you do that by creating it within yourself and in your own experience. If you want humanity to live in harmony, you must create harmony within yourself. If you want others to be abundant, you must align to the infinite abundance that is here and available to you. If you want others to thrive, you must allow yourself, through your joy, to truly thrive in every area of your life, and to know that not only are you worthy of doing so, it is so important. What you are feeling in any moment is what you are contributing to the collective human consciousness. As you are feeling joy and love and freedom, that is what you are contributing. And we would say that especially those particular feelings or states of being are so much more powerful, that you even more powerfully contribute for all who are choosing to live in a state of joy and peace and love and harmony and freedom and well-being as you live it for yourself. Choose now, in this day, in this year, in this time, to focus your attention on all the ways that you are thriving and expanding all the ways that you are thriving. The instant manifestation of receiving is expansion. In order to truly realize your own expansion, you must allow yourself to receive. And to receive, you must know you are worthy of the love, of the support, of the resources, of the money, of the time, of the inspiration, of the creativity, of your own intuition. It's all here. It's all available to you. You are a channel. And it's all here for you. You are the consciousness and the energy that creates worlds, but most importantly, you are the consciousness and the energy that creates your world. And indeed, everything is possible for you. As you elevate your consciousness, you summon more and more energy into form. And so to create huge, impactful, long-lasting shifts in your life, you must elevate your awareness and expand your own consciousness, because as you do, you summon more and more of your own energy, and you elevate yourself into a state of being where so much more is possible for you. Whole new worlds open up to you. So allow your awareness to expand, allow your consciousness to expand, allow the energy that is all your energy, and allow the light that you are to shine brightly and brilliantly in every moment. You are everything you wish to be. You already are. It is all within you. It always will be. And we love you. We love you. We love you. And with that, we are complete.
Thank you. No
Thank you.
words. From my heart to yours and the council, and from the collective heart. Thank you. Beautiful,
Thank you.
beautiful. Mwah.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Sara, what a gift. And to all of you, hope you feel the love and bring this into your heart. Come back to this over and over again. Love and light to each of you. Sara, blessings.
Thank you, Julie. So much love to you and your community. Bye, everybody.